Lu Zhu was the founder of the most brutal evil sky pavilion, which successfully completed time travel. In addition, he managed to train 9 villains who brought terror to everyone. But a difficulty arose in the form of 10 clans continuing to attack. The problems were both external and internal. Lu Zhu didn't understand why everyone had successfully traveled through time, but he alone had turned into an old man. Not only was he an adherent of evil, but his followers were the same. The man forced the system to activate a recheck. He saw himself dealing with 10 clans at once and also training villains. He had everything one could dream of. Lu Zhu was the leader of a company who had traveled through time and become the most powerful founding ancestor, the Lord of the Evil Sky Pavilion. And he also had 9 followers who, like him, used dark techniques. They were evil and powerful, and Lu Zhu, unfortunately, was now just an old man whose lifespan was coming to an end. His great follower was Yu Zhenghai, and his second was Yu Shangrong. Among them was a muscular red-haired man armed with a spear. The fourth follower was a blonde man with a blue sickle. The fifth follower was Zhao Yu, a brown-haired woman with a short jade sword. Also on the list were Ye Tianxin and Si Wuya. The follower of Zhu Honggong was a man of special dimensions, especially in the abdominal area. The last follower was Qi Yuyan. There was also supposed to be a 10th follower of Shai, who was still unknown to anyone. The followers of Ji Tiandao gathered at the Golden Court Mountain. They said that it was a blatant disgrace for the clans to take advantage of their difficulties, but they shouldn't panic. Even if their teacher was unable to fight, they had to try to prevent these people from doing anything. One of the students noted that the lords of the 10 clans were also there, and the second shouted that everyone should remain silent, since their teacher was in a slumber. Opening his eyes due to the loud swearing, Lu Zhu tried to understand where he was. The man began to guess that he had become the ancestor of the Evil Sky Pavilion. His memories began to change. A month ago, the great lords of the 10 clans set a trap and attacked the ancestor. Ji Tiandao fought against 10 enemies, but it ended in a draw. And now, the pavilion lords, ready to attack, were at the foot of the mountain. The mountain was going through difficult times. The memories continued to come back, and Lu Zhu now knew that Tiandao had saved 9 of his followers, each of whom was a villain who had caused great trouble. Yu Zhenghai's follower renounced his master and founded the Netherworld clan, which became the most influential demonic clan, while Yu's second follower, Shangrong, became a terrifying swordsman who challenged everyone and killed anyone who disagreed with him. The 6th disciple, Ye Tianxin, became the ruler of the Talking Moon Palace, a female cultivator nicknamed Jade Face. The 7th follower, Si Wuya, provoked military actions resulting in countless injuries and casualties, while the 8th follower, Zhu Honggong, took only a few years to obtain the title of Demon Lord after descending from the mountain. The 9th disciple, Qi Yuyan, was the last to arrive, but she became the teacher's favorite and was currently the only one who remained on the mountain all the time. Tiandao had lived for nearly 1,000 years, and that was already the limit of a cultivator's lifespan. Gradually, his strength was ebbing away. He could no longer restrain his followers, and they began to compete with each other. His body was completely empty, and he felt a constant sense of weakness and calm. All Lu Zhu could do was accept Tiandao's memory. Noticing that the teacher had woken up, the students asked how he was feeling. Min Xian reported that the enemies could break through the barrier very soon. Duan Musheng asked to be allowed to ask his elder brother for help. He didn't think that Yu Zhenghai would sit idly by. After all, he was the lord of the underworld, with several thousand demons under his command. Zhao Yu noted that the 7th brother should definitely be able to handle it. Because he was very wise, Qi Yuyan also wanted to say something. Lu Zhu demanded that they be silent, as he did not understand their worries. Because the barrier of the Golden Court was supposed to withstand any adversity, the old man tried to remain calm, because it was impossible to panic, since he was in charge of these villains. The man knew them better than anyone. He was sure that the 7th could not escape. Since he was good at intrigue, so he could not. The old man said that in the past, 10 clans attacked him at once. But he achieved a draw. Lu Zhu asked if the disciples really thought that they could not cope, and if not for the barrier of the Golden Court, would anything have worked out? He knew that it was not worth mentioning that the cultivation was scattered everywhere. Otherwise, he would become easy prey, Lu Zhu said. Did his followers not understand their teacher and think that he knew nothing? The bowed villains began to deny it, and the old man said that they all found themselves in the divine realm, and perhaps in a few years a new stage would open that they would have to overcome, and the villains would become an order of magnitude stronger. Just like their elder brother, Luzhu asked if he would be able to control them then. The students said that the teacher was like a father to them and they would never betray him. Luzhu ordered them to disperse, as the teacher had his own plan. The old man sighed with relief that the disciples had finally left, and he thought about how good it would be for Tiandao if someone could clean up the mess for him. Luchzhou didn't understand what to do now. There were problems on all sides and his body was old and barely breathing. The system reported that it took about 1,000 years to discover the task. It asked to complete the inheritance and training task. The system was activated, as was the task. Tiandao was a 9th-rank cultivator whose points, which could be used to buy life force and raffles, had gone into a huge minus. He had 3 days left to live, he had no requisites or techniques, and his other functions included a store and a lottery. Luzhu was surprised that he had minus 100,000 points and thought that maybe it was some kind of mistake. He did not understand what could have happened to the old man in the past 3 days. The system made adjustments, and now the person's name was changed to Luzhu. A preliminary mission was launched, consisting of 9 tasks which had to be completed, after which the points would be cancelled, and it was also discovered that the owner was too weak, which is why it was suggested to open a gift for beginners. The man told him to open this gift. The difference was small. The missions issued by the system could be changed. Luzhou wasn't particularly surprised, since Tiandao had committed many bad deeds in his life, and the system acted quite sensibly. It knew that the body was almost useless, so it issued a beginner's gift set. Luzhu received a return card that could be used to obtain vitality points. He felt sorry that the Tiandao cultivation base had been destroyed, but there was still some strength left in his body. Luzhu also received 3 Tibet cards. Each time he used them, his strength would increase significantly for 30 minutes. When he was at his weakest, he could stand against 10 strong people, and if he was at his peak, no one would defeat him. 5 Death Shield cards blocked 5 death blows that the owner would receive. Looking at the return card, Luzhou decided to use it immediately. The students felt a powerful energy. Duan noted that the teacher was very strong. Since he was betrayed, he did not really spread information. Zhao said that she felt that the teacher had no fluctuations in his aura, and she also heard rumors that Tiandao had been seriously injured. Ming replied that the fluctuations weren't that hard to hide, so the girl should have been more careful. Judging by the old man's actions, everything was under control, since the teacher loved little Qi the most. Xian asked her what kind of energy fluctuations those were. Yuyan replied that she didn't know. The teacher was invincible. The clans told the Golden Court demons to listen carefully. They were surrounded and strongly advised to come out and accept their death. Ming explained that it was Zhou Jifang from the Heavenly Sword clan who had just recently made a breakthrough. He was in the deity realm. So Xian thought that this person would not be able to defeat even his little sister. Unfortunately, there were too many opponents, but there was no need to fear them. However, the villains would have a hard time, because some of the cultivators were at the level of the primordial spirit. It did not seem that the students could cope. They could only hope that the teacher had an escape plan. Min asked if anyone would stop them if they wanted to escape. Musheng stated that he could not leave until the teacher gave him the weapon, and Zhao asked what was more important to the man, his life or the weapon. Yuyan, leaning from the tree, asked if they hadn't thought about fighting side by side with the teacher. The teacher had worked so hard to teach them all, and now Qi couldn't understand how the students could do such a thing. Jay replied that her sister hadn't arrived long ago, so she hadn't understood yet. Tiandao certainly trained them, but it couldn't be said that they learned much, and they were unlikely to become stronger as a result of the training. Xian noted that Yuyan was too naive. They had both fame and reputation, and they had received the appropriate training. Qi stated that this was still no reason to betray Tiandao. Luzhu stretched his hand upwards, dissatisfied that he was still old. In his past life, even after working overtime, the man felt at most 30 years old. He had a hard time adjusting to his current age. Fortunately, at least his sentence was extended from 3 to 313 days. It was possible to exchange skills, weapons, and various experience points in the store, including return cards, which meant that Luzhou was able to increase his strength. But it was a pity that there weren't many props. Something had to be thought of. A fiery attack flew into the energy dome, and the old man wondered if the cultivator couldn't break through the barrier. When the 4 disciples arrived, Luzhou reflected that Golden Court Mountain deserved to be called a treasure. The barriers that had been established were gradually strengthening. Even a person who was at the level of the primordial spirit would have a hard time. He noted that the teacher looked younger. The man was delighted at the arrival of the disciples, calling Yuyan the best and stroking her head, Luju was surprised that the old demon could be so gentle. Duan stated that the clans were asking for a fight and needed to be killed. When the ancestor cast a displeased glance at Mushin, the nervous boy immediately lowered his head. Looking up at the sky where the balls were flying and crashing into the dome, Luju said that he knew how to defeat the enemy. He told the disciples to follow him, and the demons obeyed without question. All the clans put in a lot of effort. They were sure that the Golden Court would not withstand, and they assumed that the mountain ancestor was seriously injured and even dared to come out. These people did not want to allow the Golden Court to continue absorbing the dark aura. Considering Tiandao a coward, the warriors decided to continue the offensive. Zhou Jifang of the Heavenly Sword Clan asked everyone to be careful as the demon was coming out. The warriors continued to attack the barrier behind which Tiandao was located. Finding himself at the very edge of the dome, he suddenly stopped. His students did not understand why the teacher did not move. While sailing through the sky on a ship, the head of the Heavenly Sword, Luo Changfeng, noticed that a month had passed and Tiandao had become younger. Lu Zhou replied that Luo's belly was still just as big. Changfeng shouted at his opponent not to pretend. He could fool his followers but not the clans, so he should just remove the barrier and then everything would be over quickly. A smug Jifang turned to the remaining 4 Tiandao followers and stated that the old man was seriously injured, and it was unlikely that it would be easy for him to teach them. Zhou suggested that they destroy the teacher themselves and have a chance of survival. Ming noted how unfortunate it was that the former follower was focused on battle. He couldn't wait to teach the man a lesson. And Zhao noted that the guy had a good sword, and if Xian helped her, everything could work out for them. Lu Zhu explained that there was no need for that and suggested a one-on-one fight. Alarmed, Jifang stood on his sword and flew back, realizing that he was too weak to fight such an opponent. Luo said that no one had guessed that all 9 followers of the Golden Court were the strongest people above the Divine Realm, and only they were able to bully the youth. The clan lords united to oppose them. Good was always rewarded with good and evil with evil, so the opponents had to stop this senseless resistance. Lu Zhu replied that it didn't matter who was in charge here, the evil or the good forces. They were the masters here. Even if the followers acted differently, it didn't matter, because the rulers themselves had to sort everything out. Changfeng replied that by the time the old man decided to punish the disciples, it would be too late. The Netherworld clan was absorbing clans. Shanrong had committed many bad deeds. For example, depriving the heir of the Dayan dynasty of the opportunity to marry the princess of the western region. Luo asked if Tiandao believed that his disciple was at fault for this, and whether the old man had been able to deal with it. Lu Zhu replied that his disciple was indeed guilty, just like Si Wuya, who had 30,000 corpses of practitioners on his hands. Changfeng noted that it was good that Tiandao acknowledged this. It could be concluded that his followers had a lazy teacher. He said to speak up if there was something to say. Lu Zhu asked what would happen after that. They had different views. The western and northern regions were completely different races, not like them, whose views were malicious. Luo said that if he, the ancestor of demons, had enough courage, he should have come out from behind the barrier right now. The man said that in that case, he would have to fight 10 overlords at once again. Xian thought that the teacher and his opponent did not agree with each other. If they clashed, someone would definitely die. It was a very strange situation. However, the villain could not say anything. It seemed to him that the teacher was also behaving strangely. He had the power to win, but for some reason he did not come out. There was only one explanation. Smiling, Xian guessed that the teacher was wounded after all. After passing through the barrier, Lu Zhu said he was ready to fight. Lo decided to use the unique technique of the Heavenly Sword Clan, blade flashing. It was a very powerful technique that not everyone would dare to use, but it was worth a try. And it wouldn't be scary even if it didn't work out. The demon was supposed to die soon. He was worried about the teacher, but Xian said that he couldn't be killed so easily. Most likely, he probably had something to show. However, he was faced with the most powerful attack from the Heavenly Sword. Even a person at the peak of the Tribulation Realm couldn't withstand it. It was obviously a trap by Changfeng. Lu Zhu was going to use the map if necessary. He understood that the suspicions of his 4 students were becoming more and more serious. It was very difficult, because this teacher was a real loser. The system reported that a side mission had been launched. It was necessary to show true faces. When the blade flash technique had accumulated enough energy and the floating sword had grown several times larger, Luo pointed his hand at Lu Zhou and told him to die. Yuyan shouted at the old man to run. Ming also understood that even if Tiandao had not been injured, it would have been difficult for him. Xian asked why the teacher did this. As Zhao fired an energy beam, she told the old man not to dare die. And Duan, who was also attacking, exclaimed that if Tiandao died, the weapon would disappear along with him. The enemy's sword and the rays of his own disciples rushed towards the old man. Luzhu thought that the villains were villains for a reason. They only thought that with his death their weapons would also disappear. The followers shouted at Tiandao to run, and the man rushed back towards the shield. The attack aimed at him changed course thanks to his disciples, but ended up crashing into the barrier. The layer of earth behind the barrier was torn away, and the dome itself cracked and was unlikely to hold up for much longer. Luzhu thought about the fact that there were still 5 attacks left that had not been activated, but there was no critical one yet. It was no joke with the villains. People shouted that they knew the demon was pretending. They did not expect that an honorable man would stoop to such a flight, which was a great shame. The sight of the escaped patriarch gave the cultivators more confidence. Zhao was outraged that Luo wanted to kill the ancestor and take everything for himself, and the clan lords ridiculed Tiandao, who was already so weak that he needed the protection of his followers. Ignoring this ridiculous talk, he looked at the cards of spades and tried to make the most correct decision as quickly as possible. Ming asked why the teacher did this, since he was so powerful and could deal with everyone alone. Xian suggested that Tiandao deal with the overlords, and the followers would take on the ordinary soldiers. Luzhu asked if the boy really doubted his teacher, and Xian replied that he couldn't allow himself to do such a thing. The ancestor understood that in order to enter the external environment, he first had to deal with the internal one. He had to force the villains to be honest. Once he used the map, there would be little time left. The old man asked who allowed Duan to interfere in the teacher's affairs, and the man, kneeling, said that the follower realized his mistake, but he was only worried about the teacher's safety, since Luo deliberately lured him into a trap. Xian said that the ancestor should not have been so worried. Min told the third brother to stand up and he obeyed. Zhao told the old man to surrender and noted that he only needed to pass on all the techniques and weapons to them. But he would still remain their teacher forever, and the shocked Qi did not understand what was happening at all. The clans declared that although the heavens had not yet restored justice, everyone had to receive their retribution, and Tiandao should have been mentally prepared for the current turn of events. One of the best examples was the betrayal of the 5 disciples. The cultivators were sure that the old man would end badly. Luzhu asked what Qi would tell him. Yuyan hesitated, and the old man said that everything was fine, and the girl should have said what she thought. He had never seen such a sweet child, and noted that when her brothers left the Golden Court, they were more depressed. The little girl knelt down and said that the follower wouldn't dare. Now the side mission was completed, and Luzhu received the true vision of the long-lasting effect, through which he was able to find out that the loyalty of Qi, who was in the divine realm cultivation, was 60% and continued to rise. Ming's loyalty was at 15% and falling. Duan's loyalty was at 23% and continuing to fall. Zhao's loyalty was at 35% and also continued to fall. The system said that when loyalty reached 0, the followers would rebel against the old man. The loyalty of the 3 senior followers continued to decline, but this was not surprising. The man said that there was no point in pretending anymore. He was really injured. Changfeng's eyes sparkled. He was pleased with this turn of events because now he knew for sure that he could easily deal with the enemy. The loyalty of the 3 senior students instantly dropped to 5%, then stated that this did not mean that they could rebel against their teacher, after which the followers were surprised to feel the old man's strength. Luzhu used a card that brought him back to his peak power. The 3 senior disciples who were hit by the energy wave coughed up blood as they flew back, and Yuyan's eyes widened in surprise. A strong gust of wind reached the cultivators behind the barrier, almost knocking them off their feet. Finally, finding themselves on the ground, the disciples immediately rose to their knees. Continuing to cough, they said that the followers understood everything. Shocked, Qi looked at her teacher, engulfed in flames, who was incredibly happy to feel such amazing, incredible power. As if from an explosion, a fiery beam shot into the sky, destroying the shield. Law was shocked that the wounded villain had such power that he could break through the barrier. The cultivators who had just seen the old man running away from them were now frightened, feeling a bad premonition. Kneeling, the disciples, with boulders falling around them, admitted their mistake. Luzhou declared that disobedience would be met with appropriate punishment. Tiandao pointed his finger at the followers and they were knocked down by an energy wave again. Turning away from the villains, the old man said that he would deal with them later, but now he called up the system window. There were still 29 minutes left, and his students quickly learned the lesson. Now only thousands of cultivators and their overlords remain. Lu Zhu pushed off the ground and flew into the sky with the speed of lightning. Tiandao said that in order for everyone to know true power, it was time to illuminate the darkness, and for this the man called upon the Dharmakaya. In the sky around S, surrounded by golden light, and beneath him, a golden lotus with 8 petals was spinning rapidly. Seeing what was happening, Lo quickly stepped back, shocked. He demanded that the enemy be stopped. The other overlords also hastened to create their avatars in the air, which served as a wall behind which the cultivators hid. Dharmakaya was one of the most powerful techniques of Tiandao. Jifang ordered not to panic, because despite the fact that Dharmakaya was a very powerful technique, it required a colossal amount of energy. All that was needed was to reflect this wave, and the old man would have died. However, many cultivators either received serious injuries or died on the spot, with blood gushing from their ears, eyes, and mouths. It was strange to everyone that Tiandao started with one of his most powerful techniques. Lu Zhu understood that since time was limited, it was worth playing his trump cards right away. Since Luo loved blades, Tiandao also decided to use a sword, and a golden light appeared in front of his right hand, which transformed into a sword. This was the Heavenly Grip, another powerful technique of the demon ancestor. This technique included accuracy and perfect mastery of the blade. Duan always wanted to learn it, but the teacher was never in a hurry with it. Mushin did not think that he would ever see it. Lu Zhu not only used Dharmakaya with ease, but also Heavenly Grip. Seeing such serious technique, the students again admitted that they had been terribly mistaken about their teacher. Flying away as quickly as possible, Law shouted for everyone else to run, as the combination of these techniques was bound to cause massive destruction, and if they didn't retreat, they would be seriously injured. Changfeng didn't understand why this old man had gained so much strength in just a month, and besides, Tiandao had definitely been injured in the previous battle. Now Lu Zhou was making a slashing attack. A powerful beam emanating from the sword fell from the sky, causing serious damage to the ground. The fiery beam, passing through the crowd of cultivators, destroyed everything in its path. Now the clan lords, trying to avoid this attack, understood the seriousness of what was happening. A month ago, this old demon had already used Dharmakaya to defeat 10 enemies, but they never thought that Tiandao would use this technique again. One of the rulers noted that the ancestor had now resorted to her, as if out of despair. However, Changfeng noticed that Lu Zhu looked very relaxed. The demon reflected that it was all about the map. Even after pouring out all the energy, it was instantly filled up to its peak again and was worthy of being called the map of Tibet. The frightened cultivators, left without their leaders, scattered in all directions, unwilling to die. In the end, Lu Zhu only had 3 experience cards, so he decided that in this case, he needed to manage his time properly. The man asked the cultivators if they really wanted to escape. The old man declared that they were too slow, and using the flicker, he went after his enemies at the speed of light. The 3 students were in complete shock. The reason why flickering was considered a very powerful technique was because it appeared in a specific location at an incredible speed. It was an excellent means to deal with an enemy. The only drawback was that it consumed a large amount of energy. The teacher had used many energy-consuming techniques, and now his followers could not understand why he had allowed himself to be treated like this, and endured the insults of Golden Yard Mountain if he possessed such power. The frightened older students, realizing that it was all over, wondered whether they should stay put or whether it would be better to run away. Qi asked them to listen to her and to be completely honest. The girl stated that the teacher was too strong and the villains would not have been able to escape. Followers noted that the ancestor constantly lied, deceived them, and did not teach them such techniques. They came to the conclusion that the teacher did not want to repeat the mistakes of the past, so he wanted to play everything out differently. Changfeng moved with what seemed like lightning speed. Lo had expended a lot of energy, but he felt it was worth it, and now he was safe. But suddenly a figure appeared behind Changfeng, making him nervous. Lu Zhu declared that he was tired of waiting for his master. Tiandao asked, "What about Luo's arrogance?" Changfeng told the villain to stop pressuring the people, and noted that Lu Zhu had already used the most powerful techniques dozens of times in a row. Luo guessed that he was the only one Tiandao needed. The ancestor asked if there was power in the rice, and then again invoked the Dharmakaya. Lo was indignant, and the demon declared that he could do even worse. The huge avatar fell on Changfeng, burning him. There were not many people in the world on the Dharmakaya, and the 8-leafed golden lotus was something incredible. It could still improve and become 9-leafed. Changfeng had a 7-leaf avatar, and it was fundamentally different from the 8-leaf one. Luo couldn't even use the heavenly blade at the same time. It was astonishing to him that Lu Zhou could use so many techniques at once, The clan lord begged the demon to stop. Tiandao apologized, explaining that it was too late to stop. Dharmakaya sat down on the ground, completely destroying Changfeng. Luo had vanished into thin air, and pursuing the others was pointless, as it would only add a few more victims, and the card's effect could end at the wrong moment. There was still some time left, and Lu Zhu decided to deal with the followers. The first mission was completed and the points were reset. Now it was time to activate the main mission. Training villains. You had to become a teacher and father for them. Train them, increasing the loyalty percentage to 80, while the students who rebelled against the teacher were enemies. The second mission was to punish the villains. Using incredible speed, the ancestor hurried back to the Golden Court. He was surprised by the stingy system that set new tasks and gave no rewards, but it was better to have an experience card than nothing. When the old man landed, the system notified him that the experience card was a valuable prop. Given to a weak beginner, it had to be used with caution. It also advised him to work harder to increase his strength. At this moment, the card had already expired. Standing on the hard surface, Lu Zhou thought about what an amazing feeling he had experienced. The man could not even imagine how much time he had to work to achieve the same success. The experience card was just a card, not one's own strength. But with it, the ancestor could defeat anyone as if he were touching porcelain. But it was better to behave more calmly. 4 villains were kneeling before the old man, and 3 of the older disciples were openly trembling. Tiandao asked Qi to stand up, and the girl, whose loyalty was 65%, stood up without question. Lu Zhu noted that he was tired and asked Yu Yan for help. He also noticed that Duan, Ming, and Zhao's loyalty had increased, but it was still not enough. The joyful girl ran up to the old man and, taking his hand, helped him climb higher up the mountain. Without the teacher's permission, the followers did not dare to rise. Muxing was indignant that because of Xiyin, he was in a terrible situation, and Ming asked how he could be blamed. After careful analysis, Ming determined that the ancestor was definitely injured. Zhao complained about this precise analysis, and Xiyin replied that he really tried to take everything into account. No one knew that things would turn out like this. The girl asked what he had missed, and Min replied that perhaps it was some kind of plan by the teacher, who definitely had something hidden. The students were thinking about running away again, but they understood that they definitely didn't have a chance to do so. The teacher had just chased after the 10 clan lords, using the flicker and the Dharmakaya, and he certainly would not have sat quietly knowing that his followers had escaped. Lu Zhu asked little Yu Yan how long she had been on the mountain, and the girl replied that she had been following the teacher for 5 years. Thinking that Tiandao had surrounded himself with monsters, the man asked Qi if she knew what was wrong. Beginning to bow diligently, almost smashing her forehead on the floor, the girl said that she should not have listened to her brothers, and should have always believed in the teacher. The old man nearly choked and said that this was not what he meant. The ancestor explained that at the end of the year she left the Golden Court and stole the cultivation books. Lu Zhu's memories weren't that complete, so he didn't understand why the girl did this. The man asked why she did such a thing, and Qi replied that she knew she was wrong. The fourth brother said that those who were not on the blacklist could not become full members of Golden Court Mountain, so she did what she did. Not remembering this, the old man asked what kind of blacklist it was. Yuyan explained that it was a ranking list compiled by cultivators, and everyone on it was a villain, with the siblings being in the top 30. Tiandao was in first place. Now Lu Zhou realized that the teaching and guidance was lacking, and it was all because he was a bad teacher. Surprised Qi did not understand what was happening to the teacher. The man said that Yu Yan was his most beloved follower, so she should not engage in evil deeds from now on. He asked the girl to stand up, and Qi, who listened, giggled, noting that the teacher was the best, and Yu Yan would always be by his side. The girl massaged his shoulders, and the old man thought that, despite the fact that Tiandao had trained 8 villains, one of them still had a conscience. If he hadn't appeared, she probably would have also become unkind. Qi had not yet become completely embittered, and she had a very vulnerable heart, despite the fact that she was strange. The system notified that Qi's loyalty had reached 80%, for which Lu Zhou received 100 points as a reward. In the man's past life, everything depended on the company's leader. They were similar, and here Tiandao's training had a special influence. The harder you press, the greater the return. The old man asked the girl to call 3 students. Bowing low, the followers, whose loyalty had risen a little further, begged for mercy. As long as there were at least some positive changes, the indicators should have been growing. Zhao tried to justify herself, saying that they were confused and panicked, but they had no intention of betraying him. Duan said that he had been here for 100 years. Even after being here for so long, he did not have much merit, but he was willing to work hard to correct this. Min said that in the 60 years he had spent here, he had never betrayed his teacher, and therefore begged for mercy. Turning away from the students, Luju sighed thoughtfully, which surprised the students. The old man asked the third student what place he was on the blacklist. Duan replied that he was in 18th place, Ming was in 25th place, and Zhao said that she was less fortunate, she was only in 28th place. The ancestor was indignant that it was difficult to raise good followers. He asked if being on the blacklist was really a reason for pride. They all disgraced him. The students screamed that the followers admitted their mistake. Luju was sick of being at the top of the list himself, and he said that since the students were admitting their mistake, it was time to change. The followers did not understand how they were supposed to change. Smiling kindly, the old man said that from that moment on they were to stop committing atrocities and asked if they could promise him the same. The three students froze in place, looking at their teacher with incomprehensible gazes. Luju stated that the four of them did not understand anything at all, and then the disciples accepted the order. The ancestor explained that he would not be their teacher all their lives. He only helped them improve, but he could not teach them to be people. The old man also made mistakes, but tried to make sure that his stupid followers avoided them. The man pointed out that the barrier of Golden Yard Mountain had been broken, and as punishment, Duan and Ming had to go there and repair it, and when they finished, they could be free. This task was equivalent to imprisonment. Because the barrier could not be completed quickly, it would take 8 to 10 years, which was a suitable punishment. It was better than killing. Mushin and Xian happily accepted this punishment. Luzhou asked if Zhao had any objections to her third and fourth brothers remaining on the mountain as punishment to atone for their guilt. The girl replied that she had obeyed his orders and had no objections, but there was one but. The students did not quite understand why exactly they were being punished. These villains had been following Tiandao for a long time, the demon had clouded their minds, and they had lost the ability to judge good and evil. The man asked Yuyan to tell them what was good and what was bad. The girl said that helping people was good and harming them was evil. It was an answer she made up on the fly, but she never thought it was right. When Luju approached Duan, the disciple replied that doing good was good, but robbing and killing was bad. Min said that serving the country and the people was good, but helping tyrants was bad. Their answers were too hypocritical. The old man expected something else. He said that the life of people was short. There was no need to think about higher virtues in serving the country. There was no need to try to appear good. You had to be a person with a clear conscience. The students thought that the teacher was no longer the same as before. A month ago he said that they could kill anyone they didn't like. But now the man was showing completely different thoughts. Zhao stated that she understood everything. They had to kill those impudent people who offended the master. The old man talked about his feelings for a long time, but it was all useless. He told the disciples to forget about it and go to the mountain to serve their punishment. The followers obeyed, and their loyalty increased a little. It was impossible to solve the problem of good and evil in such a short time. But the students' loyalty had to rise above 60% by any means necessary. The ancestor said that he would turn a blind eye to their past. What was in the past. But if they disobeyed him in the future or committed crimes, he would not forgive them. The followers said that this would not happen, and their loyalty increased by 5%. Luju continued to say that by ascending the Golden Court Mountain they became followers, and this place patronized them. Having bowed, the students thanked the teacher, and their loyalty increased by another 10%, and cheese by 2%. Luju told his disciples to step forward, and the followers immediately soared into the sky, leaving the teacher. The task of punishing the villains was completed, for which the old man received 100 points of virtue. The followers said among themselves that betrayal was a serious crime, and the teacher simply forbade them to go beyond the mountain. Previously, such an offense was punishable by brutal beatings and serious injuries. Finally, the disciples disappeared from Luzhou's sight, giving him relief. Only after experiencing peak form did the man realize how weak his body was. Looking at his 200 merit points, Luzhou entered the lottery and learned that each try consumed 50 virtue points, and if he lost, he received 1 luck point. This seemed like some kind of scam to the man, and he switched to the store. There, the old man even discovered the Dharmakaya. It was one of the most powerful cultivation techniques. When a cultivator reached a certain level of cultivation, he would gather his spiritual consciousness to form an essential body. And the stronger the cultivator was, the stronger the Dharmakaya was. The primary stage was Great Beginning, which cost 300 virtue points. Transformation of 2 beginnings cost 1,000 points, and the price of Lord of 1,000 Streams was unknown. At this level of cultivation, a powerful demon like Tiandao could only reach the 8-leaf cave of 100 tribulations. There were signs of a breakthrough in the 9-leaf cave of 100 tribulations, but it was still far from the circle of 1,000 worlds. The Lord of 1,000 Streams was the legendary Dharmakaya, and Lu Zhou decided not to think too far ahead. He needed to collect his thoughts. First, he decided to try his luck in the lottery. This is how the man was able to get the turn map. The old man was incredibly happy that he had such a great chance of winning. He still had 150 points, but Lu Zhou decided to leave them in order to buy an improved Dharmakaya later. Usually, the cultivation process consisted of heavenly tempering of the body. Upon reaching the Tongsun level, one could master the use of the first stage Dharmakaya. However, since the ancestor could buy avatars in the system, he did not need to temper the body. After receiving the task, Lu Zhou learned that he still needed to tame Zhu Honggong, as well as destroy the evil and change the situation. The old man understood that in order to deal with Honggong, he first had to find him. But with the old man's level of cultivation, this was unlikely to end well. He needed to think it through carefully. If the man had not sent those 3 disciples to prison on the mountain, but had kept them with him, it would have been a disaster. Qi's cultivation was at the level of Shenting, and she had the highest loyalty stat, and she was also the youngest, so it was worth keeping her close and teaching her the principles of humanity. So Lu Zhou would be able to complete 2 things at once. The man decided to use the turn card and return to the demon's cave. At the headquarters of the Fierce Tigers, they asked if there were any reconnaissance results. The men reported that at night they sent people on flying chariots to the Golden Court. But the situation there was tense, so the scouts did not dare to approach. However, some masters said that they clearly saw the Dharmakaya. Sitting on his azure throne, Zhu asked what type of body it was. The subordinates replied that the Dharmakaya was 33 meters high, 7 meters wide, surrounded by golden light and seated on an 8-leafed lotus. Realizing that it was definitely the venerable master, the stunned Honggong fell from his throne. Nervous, Zhu couldn't figure out what to do now. Lu Zhou was in the Evil Sky Pavilion. The old man used the turn card, which allowed him to extend his life to 613 days. This card rejuvenated the man, giving the ancestor only 300 days of life, which was slightly less than the first one. He only had 150 points left, but Lu Zhou no longer intended to practice the old cultivation techniques. He planned to buy new ones in the store. The old man did not want to repeat Tiandao's mistakes. Although good and evil were defined by others, even someone like Tiandao had a rebellious heart that was in keeping with human nature, and the ability to do evil was closely linked to the techniques he practiced. He wanted to meet the teacher, and the man let her in. When the girl entered, she noticed that the old man had become younger. Stroking the girl on the head, the mentor said that she knew how to suck up. Yuyan said that the teacher was amazing. He was able to become one of the 10 strongest and relied only on his own strength. Then the girl asked why he did not kill his brothers and sister. Because earlier he said that as long as you are strong, you can kill whoever you want. Lu Zhou never thought that Qi had such thoughts. He said that the girl should forget everything he said. Qi replied that she understood everything, and the teacher asked the girl to say everything she wanted. Yuyan said that the teacher had once promised her something and asked if she should forget about that too. Unfortunately, Lu Zhou did not receive all of Tiandao's memories, so he did not know what promise the old man had managed to make. The girl explained that as soon as she reached the divine realm, the teacher was supposed to give her a jade broom. The jade whisk was a heavenly treasure that could increase one's strength several times over. The problem was that when Lu Zhou entered this body, all of the ancestors' attributes disappeared, and now the old man didn't know what to do. If he said anything about it, no one would believe him. Lu Zhou also told Qi to forget about the promise, which upset the little girl. However, the ancestor was ready to give her another heavenly treasure. The jade whisk was used by elderly monks, so the man didn't think it was suitable for a girl like Yuyan. Joyful Qi thanked the teacher, but now she had to complete one of his tasks. There were practitioners of the right path near the mountain, and Yuyan had to deal with them. Obeying, the little girl quickly and gracefully descended. About 10 minutes later, Lu Zhou heard several identical system messages. You killed the villain and received 10 virtue points. Apparently, a follower could complete a task instead of a teacher, but the old man would still receive points. After some time, 300 points were accumulated, then Lu Zhou opened a shop and bought the first incarnation of Taiji. The next second, a breakthrough occurred. The man truly entered a new realm, but his physical training for cultivation was not enough. After becoming a true cultivator, his strength increased exponentially. Now the man was at the level of the Kingdom of Knowledge, Reason. The next avatar, 1,000 merits, cost a whole 1,000, which now seemed too expensive. Reaching the heights was clearly not so easy, especially since there were simply no suitable practice methods. Lu Zhou's mind retained many Tiandao cultivation methods, as well as 9 followers. But these exercises were created specifically for them, so they could not be suitable. And it seemed that due to the ancestor's advanced age, cultivation had stalled, and now it was necessary to increase lifespan a little more. The points were no longer increasing. Apparently, Qi had already dealt with her opponents. The man was thinking about giving the students some work. They could also be useful, since they were able to help in scoring points. The Heavenly Sword cultivator kicked off the ground and attempted to attack Lu Zhou from behind, straight at his chest. The guy was already starting to be happy that everything had worked out for him. Turning around and seeing Jifang, the old man was surprised. The boy who jumped back was amazed that his ancestor noticed him so quickly. The Death Shield's blockade was activated, preventing any harm from coming to Tiandao. With his current strength, he could see a strong man at a glance, and now the old man was wondering whether he should call for help. Jifang, startled and worried, wished death upon his ancestor and tried to wound him again. However, due to the blockage, the short blade of the cultivator shattered into pieces. The guy couldn't understand how this was possible. The gloomy old man asked if the warrior wanted to continue. The dumbfounded Jifang fell to the floor. He realized that the difference was too great. In fact, the Tongsuan level that Lu Zhou was at was the lowest in the cultivation world. The man did not know how he could resist Jifang with his Shenting level. The old man understood that the guy wanted revenge, but there was no way he could lose. Trying to remain calm, he said that the cultivator had overestimated his strength. Armed with his sword and concentrating his energy forward, Jifang rushed forward, declaring that even at the cost of his life, he was ready to take revenge on the killer of his master. Without even flinching, Lu Zhou said it was useless. As the blade approached the man, an indignant Yuyan appeared and attacked the enemy. The fire strike sent Jifang flying into the wall. Causing fire to gather around her hand, Qi declared that she would chop the cultivator into pieces, and then he would moderate his ardor. Jifang, who managed to withstand the attack, said that there were rumors that all 9 disciples of the Demon Palace were very cruel, and now he was convinced that even such a cute girl was terrifyingly strong. The ancestor asked Yuyan, who was standing in front, to step aside. If it weren't for her, the man might have died. Without her reflection, Lu Zhou's 5th block wouldn't have been able to withstand such a blow. The old man would have needed to spend a maximum experience card again. The system worked well. Thanks to it, the ancestor saw many of Jifang's characteristics, including his hatred level, which was 85%. And Lu Zhou could also complete a hidden quest line, the first of which was to lure Jifang to his side. The demon said that he killed the guy's master, so the cultivator came to take revenge on him. But he miscalculated his strength. There was no meaning in Jifang's death. At the age of 8, the boy tempered his body. At 9, he reached the Tongsuan level. At 13, he reached the Ningxi level. At 18, he mastered the Sea of Brahma. And at 20, he became a master of the Shenting level. Lu Zhou noted that his talent for cultivation was very rare, so Jifang would still have time to take revenge. He should have had many more years for this, so there was no need to die now. It was too late for the guy to regret it now. Dissatisfied, Qi asked if Jifang was really a genius, since she had become a follower of Tiandao at the age of 10. And now, at 15, she was about to reach the level of Shenting. Lu Zhou asked the girl not to interrupt him. Lu Zhou asked if Jifang knew why the demon didn't kill him. The boy started shouting for his ancestor to stop being hypocritical, and if the old man wanted to kill him, then he should do it right now. Sitting down in the chair, the old man asked if the cultivator really thought that Changfeng was a man of high morality. Jifang was young and did not know the height of the sky and the thickness of the earth, and Tiandao had known Luo even before the boy appeared. Lu Zhou warned that if he told about this, Jifang would hate Changfeng. The man asked if the cultivator wanted to hear this. Jifang was sure that the demon wanted to sow discord. Everyone knew that Si Wuya was a despicable villain who was good at weaving intrigues. The guy said that such vile methods would not work on him. The old man began his story. That year he came to Yizhu and stayed in the house of the Zhang family. Right at the moment when the young wife was giving birth, the ancestor noticed that the newborn child had extraordinary talents and decided to take him as his disciple. Lu Zhou gave the Zhang family 3 days, but regardless of their response, he was going to take the child away. However, on the second day, a disaster occurred when the ancestor arrived at their home. The entire Zhang family was dead. The old man was late. Rumors spread among the cultivators that he had killed them. Tiandao had killed countless people in his life, so this crime was easily attributed to him. But no one guessed that it was Luo. Jifang asked to continue. The demon said that the boy had a birthmark on his shoulder when he was born. His body was very weak. It was the ancestor who helped him. And it was because of him that negative thoughts appeared in Jifeng's head. Luju stated that the cultivator was that very child. The guy was shocked. Few people knew about his birthmark. The old man said that it was not worth raising this topic, because Jifeng was still young, playful, and would hardly be able to withstand the pressure of the truth. Disguising an attack as a retreat was the easiest way to intrigue a person. Tears welled up in the boy's eyes. The cultivator didn't want to believe it, and he declared that these nasty tricks wouldn't work on him. She was indignant that if Jifeng dared to slander the master again, she would cut the guy into pieces in a second. The old devil was not as scary as the cultivator thought, but his disciple really made him afraid. Lu Zhou understood that it was impossible to stand on ceremony with this guy. He grinned and said that Luo destroyed the family of his disciple. He killed Jifeng's mother and stole him. Changfeng 30 years ago passed to the level of the primordial spirit. The core was divided into sublevels: Great Tao, Primordial Chaos, and Harmonious Tao, which was the path of reincarnation. Qi said that she knew about the Harmonious Tao. If you absorb the spirit of another cultivator and combine it with your own, you can move to this sublevel. Luju noted that in the Heavenly Sword School, only Jifeng had the same cultivation method as Luo. The old man asked if the boy still thought that Changfeng was a good person. The demon understood that Jifeng did not believe him and was ready to let him go, so he asked Qi to accompany him. The girl was surprised that the teacher so easily let go of the man who wanted to kill him. The old man told her not to be impudent, and the frightened Yuyan replied that she would obey him. Grabbing the guy by the collar from behind, the disgruntled Qi dragged him away from the pavilion. Insulting Jifeng, the girl said that her teacher had no reason to lie and should have killed the guy right away. Calling Jifeng stupid, Yuyan threw the cultivator out of the window. Falling face down on the ground, the boy stubbornly shouted that he didn't believe it. The hidden quest was still not completed. Such a task could not be completed instantly. It was a matter of time. Jifeng was indeed a fool, but if he still had a couple of brain cells left, then he had to investigate this story. Returning to the teacher, Qi asked why he didn't kill this guy. The girl was quite cruel, like her older brothers and sister. She had been under the influence of Tiandao for a long time. Rising from his chair, the ancestor replied that murder was not the only solution to the problem. Qi noted that the teacher had just ordered her to go down the mountain and kill the innocent cultivators who were hiding around the mountain and deserved to die, and Luju had cried out for her not to argue with him. Stroking his beard, the old man noted that he had not forbidden killing, and that it was still one of the ways to solve problems. The system notified that the student had committed evil and would be deducted a corresponding number of virtue points for this. This news outraged the man. Luju asked Yuyan to call his brothers and sister. Then he asked the system how many virtue points he had left, and whether they would still be deducted. It seemed that because of the students, one could both gain points and lose them for committing evil. But the man did not yet know exactly what was considered evil in this world. After some time, all 4 disciples appeared before the old man in the evil sky pavilion. The ancestor asked them to tell him what they had just done. Xian replied that they were inspecting the golden yard as usual and had done nothing wrong. Luju said they should know that he did not like liars. Bowing his head, Min reported that he saw hunters at the southern foothills, but it was impossible to hunt on the mountain. He admitted his mistake and said that he needed to kill these people. Xian noted that Golden Yard Mountain was a training ground for cultivators, and no one should know about it. They were probably some undercover disciples sent by large clans. Ming said that he would go and kill them right now. He headed forward, but the teacher stopped him. Surprised, Min immediately stopped and looked at his ancestor in surprise. Luju said that the mountain barrier had not yet been restored, and of course someone could have entered there by mistake. But it was just worth driving away suspicious people. It was never too late to take action. The followers obeyed, but his words did not sound like orders. The disciples wondered if they really should not have killed the intruders and their families. The loyalty of Zhao, Xian, and Duan was 65, 62, and 68%. And as she left the pavilion, the girl noted that the teacher had become somewhat soft and asked if Ming felt that the ancestor had changed. Thoughtfully rubbing his chin, Xian said, "Don't rush. Don't act blindly. Learn from your mistakes. It looks like the teacher is trying new methods." Rushing forward from the steps, Musheng said that they should have simply listened to the teacher, and the rest was unimportant. Lu Zhu was relaxing in the pavilion when the system announced that he would receive a reward of 150 points for saving 15 innocent lives. He was also told to receive a bow from 14 people and earn 14 points for it. One pious bow could earn 10 points. The first hint was that a pious bow gave a 10-fold bonus, but a regular bow and his own did not give such a bonus. The demon was indignant. What kind of game was this, and couldn't such hints have been given earlier? The man jumped up and started shouting, calling Yuyan over. Since one could gain virtue by worshipping others, Lu Zhu told the girl to go and tell her brothers and sister to treat innocent people kindly, which surprised Qi. Meanwhile, Hongan was informed that the Talking Moon Palace had responded. Zhu, beside himself with joy, made sudden movements, causing the barrel of water he was in to shatter into pieces, and asked what was in the letter. The subordinate replied that the palace mistress had written that the old devil from Golden Court Mountain had managed to kill Changfeng, meaning his cultivation had recovered, and Tianxin could do nothing to help. She also wrote that the boss was too weak and needed to hide well. Hong Gong fell at that moment, slipping on the soap. Covering himself with a towel, Zhu was terrified, not understanding how Tiandao could be so powerful. Hong Gong told his subordinates not to panic, since he was with them, so there was nothing to be afraid of. While walking through his domain, Lu Zhou received a notification that he had been awarded 50 points for taming Hong Gong. The puzzled man didn't understand why he received virtue points when he hadn't done anything to Zhu. Looking through his stats, the old man thought that he was still weak. Even though he had found a new way to earn points, it was still too little. To buy normal equipment, he needed more than 1,000 points. With these points, Lu Zhu could only open a few reward chests and try his luck. The system said to pay 50 points to get Baze. Baze was a unique permanent beast. Lu Zhu didn't expect that he would get such a rare beast as a result of the lottery. In front of him, in a fiery glow, stood a winged beast like a goat with a lion's tail and 2 sets of ears. Tiandao possessed various cultivation techniques, weapons, and even this rare mount. After all, he was a demon elder who had lived for 1,000 years and had accumulated many things. But now that Lu Zhou had replaced him, there was nothing left. In a world like this, those who couldn't catch steeds could use flying swords or other means. But this was not comparable to beasts. If the events unfolded in our time, then Baze could be equated to a luxury car. The higher the level of the creature, the stronger it was. With a casual wave of his hand, the old man gave Baze a command, and the beast, rising into the sky, disappeared. The 4 disciples at the foot of the mountain stood frozen in place, looking up. A shocked Duan said that he must have had vision problems since he had just seen a powerful surge of energy. Zhao replied that she had seen it too. And Ming realized that the teacher had deliberately hidden his beast so that they would not see it. The students decided that they should continue to pretend as if nothing had happened. After this, Lu Zhu participated in the lottery 3 more times, but he did not get anything. In the end, he only received luck points. He only had 44 points left and he couldn't wait any longer. One of the rewards was still quite generous. The man played this lottery 4 times and received Baze and was able to save a lot, so Lu Zhou was not upset. There were 3 horsemen near the Golden Yard. One of them asked the commander why the patriarch had sent Yuyan to this mountain in the first place, since the place did not have a very good reputation. Another rider replied that the patriarch simply had no choice. He was afraid of the old demon, so he sent Qi there, hoping that the ancestor would help their clan. The commander said that he heard that a few days ago, the old demon resorted to force to get rid of the 10 sects in Changfeng. If this person was in spirit now, perhaps he would help them. Someone, frightening the riders in the air, menacingly asked who dared to climb the Golden Yard mountain. The men dismounted from their horses and bowed deeply. The commander replied that it was the Shi clan from Anyang City, and they would very much like to meet the master. Bouncing off the mountain surface and trees, a few seconds later Xin was already towering over the commander. Duan was also standing above them and noted that Shi was their younger sister's clan. Ming said that according to the new order, they couldn't kill the horsemen on the spot, and they had to be benevolent. Besides, the people were from the Yuyan clan. Zhao noted that the 4th brother was right. Smiling, Xian extended his hand to the people and asked them to stand up. Feeling horrified and covered in cold sweat, the commander thought that there was something truly cruel hidden in that smile. He said that he would not do that. Ming replied that it was a bit rude of them, because the men were from the Yuyan clan and therefore were their family, and their family should not be so respectful. Shaking their heads negatively, the men said they would not dare introduce themselves otherwise. Indignant Min, frowning, asked what kind of disdain this was, since he had asked to get up, which meant it had to be done. The riders obeyed, and Xiyin, seeing the displeased faces of his brother and sister, asked them not to look at him like that. He couldn't do anything about it. It was difficult for him to get used to the teacher's new rules. The disciples informed Luzhou that the Shi clan from Anyang City had requested an audience. The surname Shi came from Qi. They belonged to the same family. The old man told the guests to come in. Upon entering the pavilion, the men immediately fell to the floor, bowing. Then they said in unison that they were glad to welcome His Majesty. After taking a sip of tea, Luzhou noted that according to the rules, members of the Demon Palace were forbidden from interacting with friends and clan members, and asked if Qi remembered this. The girl replied that she remembered and said that she would take these people there. Shedding tears, the commander said that it was he, Xiyan. The girl looked at him puzzledly. Yuyan was only 10 when she left home. After 5 years, the memories were a little clouded. The man was glad that he was finally able to see Qi. He also noted that there was trouble in the clan. Over the past 5 years, Yuyan often worried about her mother and father. The old demon loved her very much and therefore did not break her. Duan noted that the Shi clan members were brave. Zhao said that this was a demon palace, not a place to cry. And if these people weren't from the Yuyang clan, the girl would have sewn their mouths shut long ago. Falling to her knees, Qi addressed the teacher. Min looked at the girl and an idea was born in his head. Xian told the teacher that rules were made to be broken. The little sister's family was their family too. And if the family was in trouble, help had to be given. Zhao and Duan agreed with this statement. Luzhou closed his eyes and said that this really did make sense. His students' loyalty had increased by another 5%, reaching 70% for almost all of them. The ancestor said that the demon palace should not interfere with everything. Ming declared that if the teacher thought it was not worth paying attention to, then so be it, and the old man would forget about everything. The dissatisfied Zhao and Duan thought that the fourth brother was changing his mind too quickly. They considered him a real rogue. The commander stated that the Shi clan had always adhered to the rules of Anyang City and conducted business honestly, with more than 1,000 people working there who earned their living through honest labor. A month ago, the clan's caravan was passing through the river valley but was attacked by horse thieves. To avoid further problems, the clan gave up their horses and a fortune. But to everyone's surprise, a group of horse thieves turned out to be so insatiable that they arrived in the city of Anyang overnight and kidnapped more than 100 people. Zhao said it was just a group of thieves and asked why they didn't appeal to the local government. Anne explained that the head of the family thought the same when he came to complain, and the government found out that this was the work of people from the valley, immediately drove the head away, telling them not to bother them anymore. They said that the horse thieves were supported by cultivators. The girl said it was not surprising. She thought that based on the teacher's past habits, he would not interfere in such matters. However, she understood that everything was changing, especially when it came to her younger sister, whom the teacher loved very much. Ming asked why not rely on his followers in this matter. They were ready to sort everything out. In the eyes of Musheng and Zhao, his brother looked shameless. Luzhou understood that with his current strength, he shouldn't interfere with the affairs of cultivators. Otherwise, he could run into trouble. Ming asked the teacher to rely on his follower. He had previously been guilty of many sins, but the time had come to atone for them. He stated that he really wanted to help the Yuyan clan and could not sit idly by. Ming hoped that the teacher would allow him to sort this matter out. Watching this, Zhao and Musheng wondered when the fourth brother became such a good actor. The old man saw this as a complete benefit. He said that this task would be more suitable for Yuyan, but she was too young and might not be able to handle it on her own. Since Ming was so eager, the man still decided to rely on his student. Overjoyed, Xian said that the follower would not let the teacher down. Luzhou gave his follower 3 days, but Ming noted that this was too little. Zhao said that he was so strong that even she would have needed 2 days. She asked how long it had been since Xian had become so insecure, and Ming replied that he was born that way, and asked what kind of doubts he had. Luzhou told Xian to go, and the boy rushed off like an arrow to carry out the tasks. The reason for introducing certain deadlines was that the old man did not want to lose control over the follower. If it took longer, anything could happen. The members of the Shi clan thanked their ancestor and bowed to him, for which the man was awarded 30 points. Meanwhile, the old man was looking through the task panel, where a task appeared with a timer to save the Shi clan. The teacher asked Yu Yan to see the guests off, and the girl obeyed. The ancestor said that although her fourth brother was greedy, he always took things seriously and knew how to use his head. With his skills, it was possible to complete the task in less than a day, which was quite good. Yu Yan began to lead out the Shi clan members, while the remaining Duan and Zhao admired the fact that the teacher was in control of everything and obviously knew that the fourth one would deal with everything faster. Lu Zhu also ordered Zhao to investigate the Heavenly Sword clan within 2 days, and especially to keep an eye on Jifang. The girl said that she would definitely complete this task. The old man noted that she had better act with caution given her behavior. The next day, it was very hot on Golden Court Mountain, so Lu Zhou went to the pavilion to enjoy the cool air. He didn't need to do any cultivation, so the day passed rather boringly. After Jifang attempted to kill the ancestor, Duan and Qi decided to be more cautious and acted as his guards. Turning around, Yuyan asked if everything was okay with the fourth elder brother. While enjoying his orange juice, the old man told her not to worry. Duan pointed out that although he wasn't always reliable, Ming did his best on the missions, so there really wasn't anything to worry about. Yuyan replied that she was just afraid that Xian would get carried away and forget about the missions. Musheng declared that if Ming forgot the assignment, he would teach him a lesson before the teacher knew about it. Qi wanted to say what would have happened if the seventh brother were here, but Duan told her to think about what she was saying, and added in a whisper that the traitors of the sect were pathetic apostates, so it was impossible to mention them in front of the teacher, but Lu Zhou explained that he did not care about this. Knowing that all smart people were very cunning, the ancestor said that the seventh brother was good at intrigue. He had great talent, but he easily played with people's moods, so he could often be mistaken. Surrounded by fiery energy, a postman bird approached them, carrying a letter from Zhao. The messenger bird was not originally a messenger bird. It was raised on the Golden Yard Mountain with the help of spiritual energy. This contributed to its mutation. The messenger bird became one of the many species of beasts in the world of great flames. The feathered beast flew right above Yuyan, who deftly snatched the letter from the bird's clutches. Lu Zhu asked the girl to read this letter. Yuyan began to read, "Teacher, since the 10 great sects besieged Golden Court Mountain and Changfeng died, a struggle began in the Heavenly Sword sect. Now everyone wants to take the place of the sect leader after returning to the sect. Jifang was unable to obtain the leadership. Then, the former sect leader Luo Xingkong retreated. I thought that he had decided to reach the level of Dao Harmony. While monitoring, I discovered that Jifang had become hostile to his sect." Lu Zhu noted that everything was happening too slowly and asked to tell Zhao to help Jifang when the time came. Musheng asked why they were helping this man, since he had just reached the Shenting level, especially since Jifang was their enemy. The student's loyalty was 80%, and Lu Zhou knew he had to be careful what he said. Suddenly, a notification came that Ming had completed the task. He had saved 105 people from the Shi family and brought 1050 virtue points. Lu Zhu also received the pious bows of all these people and earned the same number of points. During the task, 82 bandits were killed and 820 virtue points were received. Lu Zhu was happy that with the new glasses he now had 2094 benefactor points. At that moment, a letter from the fourth brother arrived, and the old man asked to read it. The girl reported that Xiyin had rescued all the kidnapped family members and killed the robbers. In addition, Min found out that the bandits were connected with the Fierce Tigers gang and began to thoroughly investigate the matter. The first half of the letter said that the task was completed, and in the second, Xiyin was looking for an excuse to have fun for a couple of days. Lu Zhu was in a good mood, so he decided to let the student do as he wished, and Qi was indignant at how Honggong could do such a thing. Duan said that the eighth brother was of the Shenting level, and Musheng doubted that Zhu would engage in such worldly affairs. Most likely, someone was using his name for selfish purposes. Calmly across the bridge, the ancestor told the disciples that Ming would find out whether Honggong was really involved in this matter. Returning to the Evil Sky Palace, Lu Zhu decided to purchase the Dharmakaya transformation of the two principles. The current number of points was 2904 points. 1,000 points were written off for the purchase of Dharmakaya. The energy of the Dantian meridians was like a continuously flowing river. In an instant, the power passed from the mouth to the nose, then came close to the eyes. The heart, nose, mouth, eyes, and ears were the 5 window organs that suddenly opened. The progress was too fast and unexpected. Also, having spent 1,000 points, the man bought 2 circulation cards, which he immediately used. He had already begun to get used to his old business, but now he felt 600 years younger and felt much better. No one on this planet had experienced the same sensations from the turn cards. The 2,000 points disappeared instantly, but Lu Zhu was confident that he had not spent them in vain. The man spent the remaining points on the lottery, but in the end received nothing but 5 luck points. All the virtue points he had received were still not enough. The cheapest cultivation techniques and weapons in the store cost 1,000 points. The old man thought about giving out tasks to his disciples, and then his life would be extended. He would receive more virtue points and be able to buy enough cultivation techniques and weapons. But with his current level of cultivation, leaving the mountain was dangerous. He would not be able to protect himself. On the mountain with his disciples, there was no danger, but he had to watch over their loyalty. Lu Zhu called Yuyan, and the girl immediately flew into the pavilion. The ancestor asked her to bring 4 treasures from the library. Qi was surprised because all this time the teacher had not written anything. Yuyan had done everything for him. The old man stated that she was his student, and when the teacher asked, she simply had to do her job. The obedient girl carried out the order in the shortest possible time. The girl also asked to be allowed to crush the ink, and the man watched the student's actions with a smile. In his past life, Lu Zhou studied to be an artist and was skilled in calligraphy, even winning competitions. Dipping his brush in gold ink, the old man began to carefully write out the names of his students. Tiandao used the system to train 9 evil disciples who terrorized the world. The youngest disciple had already reached the Shenting level, and the man wanted to know what level the eldest disciple had, whether he had surpassed the teacher, and if so, why Shangzhong and Zhenghai did not kill Tiandao, but continued to carry out his instructions. The ancestor must have known that his disciples, like wolves and tigers, would inevitably turn against him one day. Lu Zhu wondered if Tiandao didn't have techniques and cards that could suppress the evil intentions of his followers. The main problem was that Lu Zhu didn't remember anything and didn't know how the old man had kept himself alive. He noted that the teacher wrote very beautifully and asked why he wrote her name. The man replied that he was doing self-analysis. The girl did not understand what this meant, and the old man explained that it was necessary to analyze one's actions every day. He taught 9 students to do evil everywhere, and this angered the heavens. The ancestor said that in the past he may have made mistakes, but Lu Zhu thought that it was not he who had done anything bad, but Tiandao. Yuyan asked why the teacher took 9 of them as disciples. Only 9 people, because with his abilities, the ancestor could have expanded the Evil Sky Palace and left the Golden Court Mountain. He would have more than 1,000 disciples, and no one would dare to disobey him. The noble families would not dare to attack him. One command and the disciples would erase anyone who did not want to obey him. Those who followed them would prosper, and those who were against them would perish. Lu Zhu stroked the girl's head and thought how cute it was. He asked why the girl kept thinking about killing people. The old man asked if she had forgotten what he had said, and she replied that she remembered everything. And yet, the man recalled that he said that killing people was not the only way to solve problems, but he did not forbid killing. But Yuyan had to look at the situation and decide whether it was necessary, for example, whether it was worth killing ordinary workers who were just trying to live a peaceful life. Lu Zhou gave another example, the Qi family, which was saved by the 4th brother. He asked if these people would have remained alive if Ming had not killed the bandits. The man explained that this is what his disciples should have done. The ancestor said that these bandits deserved to die, but they wanted money. Killing people was not their main goal. The man asked what his disciples should strive for. The girl replied that they should reach the highest level of cultivation, and the old man replied that then she should train hard. Suddenly, Qi asked whether the teacher would continue to recruit students. Lu Zhu, surprised, noted that Yuyan had asked why he had only taken 9 disciples, and wondered if Qi had any idea what the reason was. Yuyan replied that this was because the ancestor was exceptionally talented. The man asked her to look closely at the writing, and asked if she could see what their names formed. The girl looked at the letters with puzzlement but could not find the answer. Then Lu Zhou said, "The bright moon is reflected in the sea. We are experiencing this moment together." After this, Yuyan realized that it was a poem. The girl noted that it consisted of the names of 9 students and asked if that was the only reason the teacher was recruiting followers. She felt that something was missing from the poem. And indeed, the character she was missing here. If Tiandao chose his students based on this principle, then he was looking for them not because of their talent, but because of their name. But the current world was different from the past. Lu Zhu didn't understand how the old man knew about the poem. He wondered if the demon had also traveled through space. A silhouette flew across the sky like an arrow, and people wondered if it was a bird or an airplane. In fact, it was Ming with a sack on his back, who was pleased that he had finally gotten out of the Golden Yard and could now have some fun. Xian was in a good mood today and was thinking about finding some pretty girls and having a great evening. He thought about the fact that the master was now playing by new rules, and he also had to follow them. But the guy still decided to do something good and give people the treasures taken from the bandits. Flying over the city streets, the generous Xiyin opened his bag, and money and gold began to rain down on passers-by. The people thanked the heavens and the Bodhisattva, the being who decided to become a Buddha for the benefit of all beings, and thus Luju received pious obeisances and for them a reward of 350 points. After 15 minutes, Ming landed on a tree branch in the place where the fierce tiger's lair was supposed to be. Hong subordinates informed him that a cultivator had requested a meeting with him. Lying in bed, Ju replied that he was sleeping now and the cultivator should leave. Hong had been very worried for the past few days and had not slept well, but now he would finally be able to get some sleep. The subordinate recounted the threats the man had made, after which someone laughed in the cave opening, and Ju jumped out of bed in horror. Min appeared before the villain and asked what the eighth brother was so afraid of. Hong was glad to learn that it was only his brother who had come to him, and not the master, to kill him. Xian asked if Ju really had no conscience left to call him brother, and Hong, running up to Ming, asked why he came, if he really wanted to join him. Ju said that there was no place for them on the mountain, and suggested that his brother stay here and become his deputy. Xian responded with only a displeased tone, telling them to stop talking like that, which surprised Hong. Min expressed his disgust at joining Ju and living in this hole. As he approached the throne, he told two of Hong subordinates to move out of his way. Ju, also driving them away, invited his brother to sit down. Xian explained that he was here on a mission and needed to find out something from Hong. Ming asked whether Ju was involved in the kidnapping of the Shi family in Anyang. Hong became nervous and replied that he was not involved, and Min then asked if that was really true. Ju swore that he had nothing to do with it because it was his younger sister's family, and even though he was a criminal, he would never have fallen so low. Relaxing on the throne, Ming said that he had killed all the bandits, and before his death, one of them mentioned the fierce Tigers gang. Xian would not blame Hong, who sat down on a small stool just like that. Ju replied that over the years of the gang's existence, he had harmed many cultivators, and that he had probably simply been set up. Xian said that he didn't care about it, and that his brother had to go with him and meet the master. Moving abruptly from fear and breaking the stool with his weight, Hong asked Ming not to do this to him and asked if the master was not wounded. He asked to turn a blind eye to this, stating that sooner or later, Xian would still leave the mountain. An angry Ming demanded that Ju shut up. Xian was displeased that the traitor dared to speak such a thing and ordered his brother to fall to his knees. While drinking the juice, Luju thought that Ming was doing something interesting, as the old man received a notification about receiving 200 points for taming Ju. Bowing to his brother, Hong admitted that he was wrong. Ming said that a couple of days ago, Master defeated a 10th level primordial spirit cultivator, and Ju should have heard about it. Xian asked how he even dared to disrespect the teacher. So Ming warned the eighth brother that the teacher's cultivation had advanced significantly, and his happy days were coming to an end. Unexpectedly, Hong handed Min a note. Ju explained that it was a letter from the seventh brother who may have left some clues. Xian's eyes widened in surprise, and Ju said that Si Wuya said that the teacher's cultivation was currently at the peak of the primordial spirit. For the past 200 years, he tried to reach a higher level, but everything was in vain. However, when he fought last time, he received a serious injury, and all because he returned to his cultivation level. Min asked if the seventh brother thought that the teacher had used any special means, and Hong confirmed this. Ju noted that they both knew about the elder brother's cultivation level. He was definitely not weaker than the master. Hong asked why then all these years he did not try to do anything with the teacher. No one knew how many aces he still had up his sleeve, but not all was lost. Ju didn't care what else the old man could do. He was bound to die sooner or later anyway. Ming noted that this was not in Si Wuya's letter and asked if Ju's pig brain had come up with this idea on its own. Hong replied that Min shouldn't have humiliated him like that. He had normal brains. Xian asked his brother to forget about it, because calling his brain pig-like was offensive to pigs. He asked who told Ju such nonsense, maybe the sixth sister or the second brother. A disgruntled Hong said that he had indeed thought of it himself, and Xiang replied that if his brother hadn't wanted to, he didn't have to say it. Min noted how scared Ju was. Xian admitted that he had thought the same thing when he read the letter, but unlike Hong, he respected his teacher. Lately, the master had been training a lot on the mountaintop and hadn't come down from it, so Ju should have just sat in his tiger shelter and not caused any trouble. Ming said that Hong was lucky that the master hadn't ordered him to be killed. Bowing again, Ju thanked his brother. As he was leaving, Min told Hong to find out something about those bandits, because he needed to tell the teacher something about them. Ju replied that he had clues, and he would definitely find out everything. Having said goodbye, Min instantly flew out of the cave. After such a shock, Ju shuddered, and his subordinate asked if he was okay. Sitting on the throne, Hong Gong said that everything was fine, and everyone needed to calm down. Ju thought that it was dangerous, and Si Wuya was indeed right. Not far from the gazebo, water was falling, creating a loud noise. In the pavilion itself, Lu Ju sat cross-legged. The energy channels of his dantian were too old, and it had become more difficult to accumulate vital energy. The man kept various techniques in his head but could not use them. It was all due to his physical condition. It was one of the problems with his cultivation level. With age, the channels aged, the life force decreased, because of which the physical strength also decreased. Because of Tiandao's age, the strength continued to decrease, and this body was no longer able to restrain his disciples, which led to their betrayal. As he stood up, Lu Ju was indignant because in fact he was a young man in his 20s, and it was uncomfortable for him to be in the body of an old man. But he couldn't give out dreams and jump around like a child. First, he needed to accumulate more vitality. The man looked through his menu again. He had over 1,000 points, but that was still not enough. Given the speed of his recovery, he would not be able to regain his youth anytime soon. Killing bandits with Min earned a lot of points, as did receiving pious obeisances. Once again, the old man called Yuyan to him. He asked about news from the outside world, but the girl replied that she spent all her time on the mountain and knew nothing about the affairs of the world. Si Wuya was well versed in this, having created an extensive information network, so he was aware of everything that was happening. Tiandao had never cared about worldly affairs, and Qi was surprised that he was asking about this now. The man was indignant. Cultivators often stopped in the city of Tangzi near the mountain. There was a station where cultivators often stopped to rest. They exchanged information for which they were willing to pay. Lu Ju asked Yuyan to go there and check out the situation, which made the girl happy. Seeing her happy face, the old man asked if it was really that bad on the mountain. Qi replied that this was not the case at all, but she had not gone out into the world for a long time, and she was bored. The teacher let Yuyan go, but asked her to remember that she could reveal her identity. But killing people was forbidden. Then the girl asked what she should do if someone attacked her. Thinking about who would dare to attack her, Lu Ju hit Qi on the head and told her to stop chatting and get going. As he watched Yuyan leave, the man thought about how he wished he could be as naive as her. The old man thought about what to do next. The mountain was certainly a devil's lair, but murderers like Jifang could still climb up here. At this moment, Duan approached the ancestor and reported that he had repaired 3 protective fields, and there were still 5 left. The student said that he was afraid that he would not be able to finish the work alone. Lu Ju was dissatisfied that all that was needed was to repair the barrier, and Mu Sheng was just chatting. In such a difficult time, they had to be strong. The old man asked if he really didn't like the punishment, and the follower answered negatively. Training disciples was the same as managing subordinates, which is what Lu Zhou did in his previous life. He said that if Duan couldn't do it in a year, then he should spend 2 or 3 years and not come to complain anymore. The ancestor wanted Mu Sheng to complete the task. The student asked the master for forgiveness and noted that he had been too lazy. Duan, hurry up and continue repairing the barriers. Meanwhile, Lu Zhu opened the lottery window. The old man played 10 times in a row, spending 500 virtue points, but he still got nothing. The man was outraged that the system was not ashamed to deceive him like that and take away his points. Then he bought a refund card and immediately used it. Now he only had 4 points left. Lu Ju noted how wonderful the weather was today. Having fallen to the ground, the ancestor thought that if he spent all his money, he would no longer have to think about it. It turned out that all that was left for the old man was to lie down and wait for death. Because of his body, he could not do anything interesting. In his past life, old people might go to the park and walk the dog or play cards. The system suddenly announced that the hidden quest had been completed, and Lu Ju was able to lure Jifang to his side and receive 200 points. The man was overjoyed at this, mentally praising Zhao. Jifang's hostility level was now 0, but loyalty was only 10%. 2 elders were also killed and 200 points were obtained. Mian arrived at the mountain and reported that he had completed the task and returned to report. Lu Ju noticed that his loyalty had dropped to 58%, meaning something had clearly happened. Ming said that after killing the bandits, he sent a message to the teacher and then went to the lair of the ferocious tigers, where he met the traitor Hong Gong and taught him a lesson. The old man looked at his student silently, making him nervous. Min noted that everything he said was true. He would never lie to the master. Luzhu said Xian had done a great job, but also asked what had happened with the investigation into the kidnapping of his younger sister's family. Min noted that it was still in progress. Zhu said that he had nothing to do with it. Xian thought it over carefully and came to the conclusion that Honggong really had nothing to do with it, especially since it was their sister's family. Even though Zhu was a criminal, the student doubted that Honggong was capable of doing something so terrible. Luzhu lowered his head and said that Xian's words made sense and asked if there was anything else. The teacher asked again if there was anything else that Min wanted to tell, since this was clearly not all that Xian had talked about with Zhu. The student wondered if the old man had divine vision and could see right through him, although that was hardly possible. And yet Min decided that the old man should not be given cause for suspicion. He had to hide all his rebellious thoughts. The boy replied that he and his brother did not discuss anything else. Luzhu said to forget about it. Since the student did not want to say anything, the ancestor did not want to force him. He noted that the guy had worked well, and now he needed to go to Duan and help restore the barriers, in which case the ancestor would call him. Min noticed Yuyan's absence and asked where she was, and the teacher replied that it was none of his business. After walking a little away from the pavilion, Xian suddenly stopped. Lu Zhao thought that Ming's loyalty indicator had really decreased, and he was clearly plotting something. The man asked if the student wanted anything else. Kneeling down, Ming said that he had practiced the final level of the Qingmu technique. But no matter how hard he tried, he could not understand the essence of this final stage. The follower asked if Lu Zhu could give any advice. The old man assumed that the student was testing him. Tiandao did not reveal the secret of the completion of the Qingmu technique. If the ancestor told him everything now, Ming would be able to significantly improve his skills. But this could be dangerous for himself. Lu Zhu said that impatience was a cultivator's worst companion. Many masters needed years of meditation and hard work to reach a high level, as far as he remembered. The last time Ming increased his mastery level was only a year ago, and asked why there was such a rush. The student wanted to object, but the teacher interrupted him, saying that, moreover, it was his feelings that were important here. Xian had good intuition, so he could master this technique himself. The main thing was to be patient. Min thanked the teacher, saying that he himself had not realized this. The student also said that there was one style of fistfighting that he did not understand, and he asked if Tiandao could help with it. Now Lu Zhu was sure that Honggong had said something to Ming, who had returned to the teacher to check everything thoroughly. If the old man had refused, the student would have become suspicious of him, which made the ancestor wonder what advice was best to give. Lu Zhu was currently at the Tongsuan level, and Xian was at the Shenting level. It was like a child teaching an adult. The old man couldn't use the peak form card just to demonstrate fist-fighting techniques to Ming. The ancestor asked what was difficult for Ming. The boy answered that he could not use the full force of his fist techniques and was stuck at this point. Then Lu Zhu offered to show how the student used these techniques. Obeying, Xian pushed off from the ground. Like a bird, he rose high into the sky above the gazebo. The student began to move gracefully, filling the space with his energy, which seemed to contain flower buds. As he delivered the final blow in the air, Min shouted out that it was precisely this blow that the student could not perform properly. A strong gust of wind blew through the old man's hair and almost carried away his notebook, and Lu Zhou thought that Xian was going to attack him. Meanwhile, the student's blow hit the mountain. After such a performance, the guy landed safely next to the gazebo. Stones broke off from the cliff and fell into the water, miraculously missing the small formation. Min asked if the master could tell him about the weakness of his striking technique. In fact, Lu Zhou didn't see anything, it was too fast for him. This style of fist fighting was taught to Xian by Tiandao. But just like the cultivation technique, the old man did not tell his student about the final stage. There were no mistakes in the striking technique. But Xian really could not put all his strength into this strike. The man had to make a choice. If he didn't give advice now, he would lose his student. Lu Zhou said that Ming had mastered the technique of this strike perfectly, and there were no flaws in it. Turning to the fourth, the teacher stepped forward and raised his hand, causing the student to panic. Falling to his knees, Xian began to apologize, saying that he was wrong. Stroking his beard, the old man said that he taught the followers cultivation, but did not teach them how to behave. The ancestor noted that these tricks of Ming's would work on some children, but not on him. Realizing that the teacher understood everything, Xian bowed his head and said that he was wrong and would never contradict the master again. Now Lu Zhou looked quite terrifying in his eyes. The boy realized that the teacher knew about all his dealings with Honggong. Unexpectedly, Lu Zhou decided to call Duan. After this, the student too quickly found himself in front of the teacher, greeting him. Looking just as powerful in his eyes, the master noticed that the student had rushed to him within a second and asked if Musheng really thought that the teacher didn't know that the student was hiding behind the rock. Duan also fell to his knees and began to ask the teacher for forgiveness. Looking at the students trembling with fear, Luzhou realized that Tiandao had planted the seeds of terror in their hearts. If they were ordinary villains, they would have jumped up and fought back. The old man explained that Xin had problems with his striking technique and asked Duan to help his brother figure it out. Turning away, the old man told them to practice this blow. Musheng accepted the order without question. But the nervous Min could not understand the teacher's decision, because he and Duan were completely different. Musheng dragged his brother along, who clearly didn't want this. Xian thought that the master had become more cunning. Before, he beat the students himself, but now he asked one of the followers. Min asked his brother not to hit him too hard. Lu Zhu was upset that the students still had doubts. The old man understood that if things continued like this, sooner or later Xian would decide to try his hand at him, and Lu Zhu would have to use his peak form cards. The fact that Tiandao was able to reach a level that no one could compare to was due not only to his advanced cultivation, but also to the fact that he had acquired many trump cards thanks to the system. This made his disciples and others fear the demon. But the only trump card Lu Zhou himself had was 2 cards of the peak form. This problem needed to be resolved before things got any worse. In the afternoon, Lu Zhou sat on a rocking chair in a flower field, basking in the sun. Finally, Yu Yan returned, saying that she had been in Tangzi for a long time and had obtained a lot of information. After the master repelled the attacks of the 10 great masters, changes occurred in their sects. Now they did not accept new disciples. After Luo's death, showdowns began in the Heavenly Sword sect, and the senior disciple Jifang left the sect. In other sects, everything was fine. Zheng Hai sent out his followers to find out the news on Golden Court Mountain. It seems he was afraid of the master. Lu Zhu noted that he had taught the leader of the Netherworld a lot. Thanks to him, Zheng Hai had reached the level of the initial spirit, and many were afraid of his sect. But he still could not do anything to the teacher. Qi cried out that the master was invincible. The old man asked the girl not to flatter like her older brothers and to continue her report. Yu Yan said that she also heard that someone stole a chicken from Auntie Zhang, and Uncle Chen's wife was in love with a man. Interrupting her, the teacher asked her to speak only on the matter. The girl continued to say that the Huashan group had been destroyed. The country had been taken over by other countries, and the flower thief who called himself a strongman had no flower pot. Listening to her, Lu Zhu thought that although Qi was young, she had a good memory and excellent potential. He was glad that Yu Yan had not yet become completely evil. 20 minutes later, the old man asked the girl to call her older brothers. Duan was in a very high mood, and Xian showed up a little beaten. The quest to train Ming was completed, for which 200 points were awarded. Xian's loyalty was still at 59%, even though the old man had managed to suppress his doubts in time. The disciple was still hesitant. Duan's loyalty was better. It remained steadily at 65%. Only Yu Yan's loyalty was always off the charts. The man said that he had called his followers for several reasons. Duan asked him to tell him what needed to be done, since they were ready to complete all the tasks. But Ming looked at his brother with doubt. Lu Zhou noted that Jifang had left the Heavenly Sword sect, and with his abilities and status, it would not be difficult for him to join another sect. The man asked to keep an eye on him and report back. Lu Zhu then decided to approach Xian to assign him a special mission. The man noted that he had done much evil in his life, trained followers who held the whole world in fear, and now the world had become embittered towards him and his disciples. The old man said that he wanted Ming to restore order in the sect, which surprised the disciple. Having landed on the deer, the guy said that although he was now at the Shenton level, he was far from the level of his elder brother Zhenghai and second brother Shanzhong. Even sister Tianxin was no match for them. Even though she had the heavenly treasure Ring of Love, had killed countless people and had long since reached the level of the primordial spirit. Ming was indeed telling the truth. The first disciples who rebelled against the master relied on weapons and their highest level of cultivation to wander the world and seize power, eventually becoming world-famous villains. Duan, Ming, and Zhao did not leave because Tiandao had a hand in it. He did not give them full knowledge of techniques and weapons. Zhenghai had the heavenly treasure Jade Blade that cut iron like paper, Shangrong had the Immortal Blade, Tianxin had the Ring of Love, and Ming simply couldn't compare to these 3 disciples. Lu Zhou noted that Honggong was only at the Shenting level, the sub-level of Dao control, while Ming was at the sub-level of Dao transformation. So he should start with Ju. The Shenting level was divided into 3 sub-levels: Dao Formation, Dao Control, and Dao Transformation. The latter was the highest. The old man noted that Xian had recently met with the 8th brother. Ming confirmed that he had recently been to the Tiger Cave, but he said that he thought Hong Gong was very stupid and that he had been influenced by Si Wuya, which was why Ju left the sect. He did not deserve to die. Turning away from the student, Lu Ju approached the table in the pavilion, remaining silent. After a while, he finally broke the silence by asking Ming to come to him. This somewhat alarmed the student, who stood up with almost difficulty. Trembling with fear, he walked towards his master. When the boy was close enough, the old man asked Xian to look into his eyes. The student's heart beat faster with horror, and Min raised his head hesitantly, fulfilling the order. Lu Ju noted that Ming looked frightened. He was very nervous, and the old man also felt frequent surges of energy. The ancestor asked if the student was afraid that the master would attack him. Kneeling down and bowing, Ming began to ask for forgiveness. He said that the teacher's cultivation art was unrivaled and the follower could not compete with him, but he simply made this protective gesture mechanically. Lu Ju understood that Ming was terrified. Tiandao used only one method of training: constant beatings. The disciples' hearts were filled with fear and hatred, but one day they might reach such a level of power that they would destroy their master. But so far, all events were inevitably leading to such an outcome. Lu Ju decided to try to fix everything. He said that he knew what was in Xian's heart, so he decided to give him another chance. The old man handed the follower a piece of paper and said that the completed Qingmu technique was described on this sheet. The man asked to take it, saying that with it, Ming's cultivation would advance one step higher, and perhaps the disciple would be able to attain the highest level of the primordial spirit. With trembling hands, Ming reached for the piece of paper. Judging by the master's previous tricks, if Xian had taken this piece of paper, the teacher would have at least broken his hands, although he had changed a lot since the moment Tiandao rejected the 10 masters. This meant that Min could still take the piece of paper. Having taken the piece of paper, the boy thanked the teacher, saying that he would defend their sect with all his might. The followers' loyalty increased by 10%, and 200 points were received for teaching Xian. Lu Ju said that he could go, and the joyful boy walked away. When Ming happily passed by Duan and Qi, they pierced him with envious glances. The old man understood that both of these disciples wanted weapons, but all of Tiandao's weapons had disappeared, so Lu Ju could not satisfy their requests. He said that he hoped that the disciples would not let him down and do their job well. The followers replied that it would be so. Duan ran to the side, announcing that he was going to repair the barrier. The remaining Yuyan asked the teacher to give her some assignments too. Returning to his rocking chair, the old man said that the girl was still young and lacked experience, so for now she should stay with him. And Qi, running up to her ancestor, clarified that the old man had instructed her to spy on Jifang Zhao. Lu Ju explained that Zhao was too unreliable in carrying out missions. 2 days had passed since she completed the task, but she was still missing. The girl began to worry and asked if her sister would ever come back. Yuyan, angry, said that she didn't believe Zhao was capable of such a thing, and Lu Ju, calmly sipping his juice, told her to just ignore it. Zhao sent one letter and there was no more news. Ming went out into the outside world once on a mission and his loyalty had already diminished. Zhao could probably have been influenced by someone as well. The man couldn't understand the reasons for the betrayal. Most of Tiandao's memory was lost, and his training was a long and difficult process. Indignant, Qi shouted out that her sister had betrayed the sect and asked how Master could ignore this when his main goal was to increase his cultivation level and restore his vitality. Lu Ju said that in that case, Yuyan should return to the city for a while and find out the news at the station. Perhaps she could hear something about Zhao. He also noted that she could develop independently. Having caught up with Ming, Duan said that this time he was very lucky. The master not only was not angry with him, but also gave him a record of the completed Qingmu technique. Xian admitted that he didn't understand what the master was thinking, although perhaps he shouldn't have thought about it. Mushin asked what this meant. Ming replied that he had done a good job with the building and the master had rewarded him, that was all. But Si Wuya said that the master had a pill that could cure all wounds, so the disciple wanted to test him.